chance to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in! What a comeback!
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. My name is Max. I'm here with Nick and Corey. Today we are going to preview the upcoming Monday Night Football clash with the Carolina Panthers. So we'll start off by previewing the offense, then we'll move on to the defense and special teams, and then we'll give predictions. So, Corey, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, so, going up against a division opponent, Carolina Panthers, you think they are somewhat similar to the team we just faced in terms of what our offense is looking at going up against. Now, I don't think that the Carolina Panthers defense is quite as stout, but they are a defense to be reckoned with. It's going to be another one of those games where it comes down to execution for the offense, where I think it is a defense that's aggressive. I think they're going to try to dial up the blitzes, especially after what they saw out of Penning. They're almost going to force us to – I see them forcing us to have to help Penning, trying to then take away some of those weapons. I know that they've had their hands full in the past, seeing Alvin Kamara twice a season, most seasons anyway. So they're going to try to take advantage of the fact that, like we said last episode, that our backfield is really Jamal Williams and then whoever the hell else can do anything. We're going to have to be putting other guys in the backfield like we did with Olave. So, again, for me, it comes down to execution. Really hoping that Penning, Hurst, not really knocking so much of McCoy Ruiz, but especially Penning that, like we said, last game was his second NFL start, that he's able to get into the film room, make some changes, really take in the coaching, and do something different to correct to the best that he can the issues that he dealt with last week. That said, like I said, it is an aggressive defense from the Panthers that comes in. They've got defensive playmakers. They're pretty fast. I do hope to see Carmichael be creative with that. He showed the creativity in the Titans game. They're just more strong and stiff and just hard to move against. But I think there's going to be some options for the screen game to come back into play with the Panthers, especially if they're dialing up the field blitzes. Take advantage of that. You could run a screen with Jamal, or like we said, put another guy in the backfield. So yeah, I hope to see more of that. Also, like we said, game one nowadays is like a fourth preseason game, so I think you're going to see more polish out of Carr. Hard to knock much out of the receivers. Obviously you want Rashid to hold the ball when he's being the return man. But, yeah, I think I look to see some improvement from the offense in this one.
Yeah, so, Nick, what do you have?
Well, from the offensive standpoint, I think we're concerned about mainly their defensive line. They're a talented group. Derek Brown, Brian Burns. The one thing they did pretty well against Atlanta this past weekend was pass rush. Ritter didn't get a lot done. He was efficient, but really no threat in the pass game. But they also gave up a ton of rushing yards, and it's kind of a game we really wish we had our full complement of running backs with AK in there. But I think staying disciplined and sticking with the run in this game probably makes a lot of sense. We need to help Penning and the left side of the line as much as we can. I like the matchups of our receivers versus their DBs. We get to see Von Bell again, which is nice. So, whoever he's guarding, let's target that as much as possible.
Yeah, run the post route towards him.
Yep, run right at him. So, I think this is the strength of their team. Obviously, we talked about this in some of the lead-up episodes to the season for the division, in that I don't know if it was just me or we all thought this was a tough game. Mm-hmm. Our first game on the road, their defense at home is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So I think even a little bit of a conservative approach here, make their other side of the team beat us. Let's stick with the run, stick with the short pass game, protect our own offensive line, and stay aggressive, take our shots, but let's be disciplined and try and sustain a few long drives and keep their defense from getting a big splash play on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to echo your point, these guys are going to want to run the ball. You got a young quarterback. They're going to try to protect him by running the ball. So I think with us, we need to do the same thing. The Falcons, they had 130 rushing yards against the Panthers defense last week. Both running backs averaged over 5 yards a carry. So the running game is there for us to go ahead and force our will upon them.
Yep.
So what I want to see is the offensive line step up and be a little more cohesive with their communication. I'm worried about pinning on Brian Burns because Brian Burns, he profiles similarly to Arden Key, that longer, leaner, faster, explosive pass rusher. So hopefully we can focus on that going in and just have somebody ready to chip him or just help pinning out in general. But I would like to see us lean on the running game. Like Nick said, I really wish we had our full complement of running backs this week. I think that would make this a whole different game than what it's going to be. Kendre Miller, we don't know what his status is yet. I have a feeling this injury is probably going to linger for a couple more weeks. So this might be the Jamal Williams show.
Yep.
Again, if it is, hopefully we can get Taysom a little more involved. And, God forbid we see some more Tony Jones Jr. or Kirk Merritt. Throw somebody else in the mix because you got to throw a change up every once in a while. You can't have the same pitch.
We didn't mention it last episode. Taysom only had 8 touches. Or 8 snaps. Which it's criminally low. I mean, for all the good that Carmichael did creative-wise, let's get Taysom involved more.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you've got an offensive line that struggled the week before, get back to the old focus of just beat the guy in front of you. And tell Penning, say, hey, we're going to run a simplified game plan. Just beat the guy you're lined up against.
Hat on a hat.
Get some push. Just open up a hole.
Yeah, he should talk to Michael Thomas. Which was. What are you focused on? Dominating the guy in front of me.
So I would expect to see a renewed focus on the running game this week. I think they'll try to establish it early and often, given that we struggled with it so much this past week, getting I think only 69 yards, if I'm not mistaken, total in the game.
Yep.
And that was a tough 69 yards. This defensive front, not nearly as ominous as the one we just faced in Tennessee. They do have some young horses on that defense, but none of them are up to the level of Jeffrey Simmons.
Right.
It's a whole different dynamic. I'd like to see focus on the running game and get a few deep shots in there.
Yeah.
Put Olave and Shaheed, put them on opposite ends of the field. Have them run some go routes, open up the middle every once in a while. Take a few shot plays.
Keep them honest. Yeah.
Keep them honest. Open up the middle for Juwan Johnson and Michael Thomas. This feels like a game where if you could take a few deep shots and you can get the running game going a little bit, Michael Thomas should eat.
It's like the classic situation of where if you hit on the big plays, it's going to open up the scoreboard. If you miss, the Panthers will keep it close.
Yeah.
They're a team that, and the only two things I was going to add to the offense, I saw Atlanta doing this, looked like they had success with it, running multiple tight ends outside the tackle. We've got the personnel to do it. We said it at the first half. It's like, good God, we have 4 starting quality tight ends. Can we just throw some help on Penning's side? It doesn't even have to be Penning's side, but let's use our tight ends in the running game. I'm with you. Run, then take a shot, but let's have use the tight ends to your advantage. And then the only other thing I was going to add is that I like Derek Carr to exert his ability to be a veteran, potentially shine in this game, because when you got an aggressive defense, you got one that's going to be trying to scheme, he's the one who can competently and confidently go up to the line, make the audible, and kill him. I don't know that we've had that in a while. So I want to see his audibles at the line. Could be good.
Yeah, let me say this. If we don't see Kendre Miller this week, I want to see Kirk Merritt.
Yeah,
I do. He's on the roster for a reason.
If he's not hurt, then
if he's not hurt, let's see him. He's a former wide receiver.
Right.
The kid obviously has good enough hands. Put him in that position that we put Olave in last week, where he motioned into the backfield and ran the option route.
Yeah.
Do that with Merritt. Merritt's got as much speed and explosion as Olave. Plus, he's 215 pounds.
I didn't realize he was that heavy.
He's a solid specimen, man. Get him involved, though. We need that change-up, and this was, to Nick's credit, he brought this up before the final cutdowns, talking about how Merritt would make the most sense because he's that that dynamic skill set that you don't have with any of the other running backs other than Kamara.
Yeah.
And I guess Kendra, but it's when with Kamara out, you need to have that guy that's going to complement Jamal Williams. And right now, we just don't have it. We didn't have it last week.
And he's also not like some previously, exciting, unheard of before guys where it's their first year on the team and you can just see their talent jumping off the field and off the page, but they don't know the playbook yet because it's complicated. Merritt was here last year, so
he's got to know the playbook.
The playbook thing shouldn't be an issue. So
right.
if he's healthy and he's got the plays down, then I agree with you. Like, let him ride.
There were a couple of plays in the preseason, this year and last, where you see him on the field, he is fucking explosive. He runs in the 4.3s. Like the kid has a 40-plus inch vertical. He's explosive.
He's got who was that speed. We're like, because not everybody knows it's him getting the ball, and when you see this dude just taking off, like a rocket.
So I would love to see him get involved this week if Kendra is not playing. Now, if Kendra's playing, I want to see the full playbook with Kendra.
And I'll say this: I hate when coaches say this, but I have to agree with him in this instance. If Kendra's not 100 with a hamstring injury, I don't want to see him.
Yeah, hold him.
I don't want to see 85% Kendra. As much as 85% Kendra might be better than Merritt or anybody else we have out there, I don't want to see him. It just is not worth it.
That's a good point.
That
being said, though, let's get one of these two guys. I don't care which one it is. Somebody with some explosion, somebody with some juice.
Somebody. Look, love Jamal, but put a running back there with him.
If nothing else, do it for the passing game aspect, because that's what we need. Those guys, we couldn't keep them honest last week because there was no threat from anyone in the backfield. And the only play that came close to replicating what Kamara brings to the offense was the Olave play. And we've referenced that, I think, 5 or 6 times over the last 2 episodes, but it stood out that much. You are missing that element of the passing game without Kamara.
And also, statistically, Carr's fantastic at a play action, and you don't have play action if they're not respecting the run.
Yeah, and I also think Juwan Johnson has a bigger game this week. Sooner or later, Carr's going to go to him. He loves the tight end. He made a star out of Darren Waller, and I think we're going to see Juwan catch fire at some point over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, again, like last week was a glorified preseason game.
Yeah,
in terms of like getting shit together, it counted. Last I checked.
It did count, and it's a win, which is the most important thing. So,
all right. So, what you got next for us? We were talking about offense.
Let's move on to defense. Why don't you start us off?
Defensive preview. Yeah, great start for the defense this past week.
Amazing start.
Advantageous, tough, affecting the quarterback. I know it's said all the time that your defensive line play or your overall pressure can't always be measured just by sacks alone. It's really how much are you affecting the quarterback. I think after watching a few of the snaps from the Panthers game, I didn't hear anything about Caden Ellis doing anything.
He had 9 tackles.
Yeah, 9 tackles.
Okay. 9 tackles. No sacks, though.
That was just bait to get y'all to praise Caden.
We're not playing Caden, so let's not talk about him yet.
But
we're saving that.
Guys like him, anyway, who we have definitely upgraded from, will have the ability to make some noise in the Carolina backfield. And so, but again, that's as long as they're doing their job, right? So you hope that I think, it's almost inverse from the offense. For the offense, you hope that they learn from certain mistakes or missed opportunities and improve on that, and the offense has a better game, and you feel like they're going to be motivated to do better. With the defense, you hope that they don't have the proverbial let down or trap game where it's like, we just went up against this really tough run offense. We just held Derrick Henry to 65 rushing yards. Sure, he got his own one screenplay. We made Tannehill, who, when he's comfortable, he can do some decent things, but we affected Tannehill. You hope the defense doesn't say, we had a great game. They're definitely not one to rest on their laurels with the leadership they have in that room, but you just hope they don't take a breath of relief from saying, all right, we did our job against the Titans. Now we have a somewhat arguably lesser opponent coming in, so maybe we can just coast. I don't think they'll do that, but that's
not the mentality of this team.
It's not the mentality of the team, but I think if we keep pressing and having the same urgency against the Panthers as we did against the Titans, we can really make things rough for Carolina's offense. Again, not to say that there's not going to be a play where Bryce Young doesn't break contain and do Bryce Young things, but if we at least minimize that, then I think we'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I feel like if we play anywhere near how we played Tennessee, this should be a bloodbath from the defensive side.
I agree.
I hope so.
Bryce Young was not good yesterday. Let's just be honest. He looked like a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we all know what he can do, and that's probably going to change over time. But, it wasn't good. It was 3.5 yards an attempt. It was couldn't get the ball to receivers. I think the longest pass play was 14 yards.
Yeah.
The biggest wide receiver game might have been 22 yards. Let's see. Probably
No, 14.
The longest pass play, right. Total yards by a receiver, 2 for 23 for Terrence Marshall.
I think
Hurst had a good game.
Hurst had
a tight
touchdown.
end, but again, easier to get the ball to the tight end. But he had trouble getting the ball outside for a big play. He couldn't do it.
right.
And Atlanta's defense is nowhere near our
They're at the same
level
level,
of
yeah.
defense. If the defensive line plays like it did this week, the secondary is going to lock up these receivers. There's no one on
Yeah.
this team who we should fear at all. Tight end, maybe Hayden Hurst can find some openings here and there in some of our zone. But I got to think this is kind of a runaway train for us on
Should be.
defense.
Yeah,
Should be.
it comes down to execution. They just
Yeah.
got to do it.
Miles Sanders is there, Chuba Hubbard. They ran the ball well this weekend. So I'd probably say that's the focus of the defense.
Yeah.
We gave up a couple rough runs, but overall pretty damn good last week too. If we hold them 100 or under in rushing yards, I find it really hard to see how they beat us this week. And that's me turning around from preseason saying this might be a really tough game. They are at home. Let's not,
Well,
Bryce
we
Young-
lost there 2 seasons in a row in
Right.
week 2.
Right.
It's one of those
No
teams
less.
where, regardless of ranking or perceived
a
ability,
division game. It's gonna be
always
tough.
tough.
Yeah. But I don't know if they can muster enough of on our defense to beat us.
That's what I'm saying. As long as the defense
Other
comes
than
in
turnover.
with their typical just push it till it's over mentality, doesn't take plays off, doesn't coast, doesn't look down on the opponent, if they treat this Carolina offense like they treated the Tennessee offense, that's when the bloodbath kicks in.
Yeah, and I think to Nick's point, Carolina is going to try to establish the run at all costs because they know they need to take the pressure off of the rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
Looking at the stats from yesterday, Sanders had 72 yards, Hubbard had 60, Bryce had 17 on scrambles. So they had 154 yards rushing. Mm-hmm. All of them averaged over 4 a carry. That's going to be their primary focus. They're going to try to establish the running game and try to hit a deep play here and there. But if we can stop the run, I think there's no reason we shouldn't be able to lock this one up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to they're going to try to have to get creative with their play calling, and I think maybe their pace. I noticed that the team snaps, there's quite a disparity between plays run by both offenses in the Falcons-Carolina game. Carolina ran, where is it? 70. Total plays 72 for Carolina and to 48 for Atlanta. I'm not worried about Atlanta, but just them running 72 plays at all. Maybe that's had a little bit to do with game flow and the way things shook out at the end. But 72 is a lot of snaps in an NFL game. So, maybe they're going to try to play call, pace it up a little bit, think they can keep us from making certain adjustments, catch us in a certain kind of personnel. But, other than schemey type of, look for a trick play at some point out of this team, that's if all goes to plan, that's really the only potential issues or things to look out for, I see, for our defense.
Yeah, and looking at their receivers, they don't have anyone that traditionally gives Lattimore trouble. Their
Right.
guys are bigger guys, and those are the guys that Lattimore feast on.
Yeah.
Terrace Marshall hasn't done much of anything over his first couple of years. He's a bigger guy. Jonathan Mingo, he's big and fast, but look, this is a rookie he's probably not there yet. Chenault, that's another one that's bigger, more physical. So these are the guys that Lattimore usually locks up with no problem.
Yeah.
And the way Adebo's been playing and Taylor in the slot, you got to think that we should be able to lock these guys up. I am curious to see who follows Hurst around because Hurst has been a solid player against us the last couple of years. He was in Atlanta before. And look, he was a first-round pick a few years ago. So, he's obviously got the talent at the tight end position. So it's just a matter of whether or not we can keep him in check. 'Cause that's the quarterback. That's a young quarterback's best friend is the tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I think Warner can match him really well. I don't think that we try to put DeMario on him. I mean, that'll probably change off depending on the situation and the formation.
Warner makes the most sense.
But Warner definitely makes. I mean, he can run step for step. He could run circles around Hurst before the ball even gets there. It's just Hurst is just a big frame guy. So if Bryce, and that's where it comes back to our defensive line, which we said was one of the highlights of the Titans game, where if they can keep Bryce uncomfortable, then it doesn't allow him to put the ball and it doesn't allow him to place the ball to where guys like Hurst can use their frame to make a catch, or the bigger receivers can frame out and box out our DBs. If we just keep Bryce uncomfortable, force him to run, please God keep contained because he can frustrate you on that end. Then that's just keep it all in front of you, like you said.
And I think we don't have a breakdown like we did on the Henry screen. This is going to be a short pass game offense, and because of his inexperience, he's going to be dumping the ball down a lot. Last week, 12 of the 20 completions was to tight end or running back. That's what it's going to be. Let's not just allow those completions. Let's actually, make sure we don't, get surprised by a screen or leave Hurst uncovered in some, in a zone formation, whatever.
Are you advocating for remember me shots? I think we got fined for that. Yeah, no, I agree.
I love remember shots.
Hey, I'm going to say this. I am happy as hell to not see Christian McCaffrey on the other sideline anymore for these games because he has just been a nightmare to deal with. But look, we've lost 2 in a row to this team in week 2 in Carolina. Let's just go get the goddamn win this week.
Yeah,
I feel like this team, because most of these guys on defense, with a few exceptions, have been around for the last couple of years for these losses, and they're inexcusable. Jameis losing to Baker last year. I guess it would have been Darnold the year before we lost to him.
Yeah. Just brutal.
When he had 40 passing yards.
Well, that's a whole different game. But Jesus Christ, there's no reason for us to lose this game. I would not bet on the Saints because they will always screw me if I bet on them. But this would be the game for me to bet on them. Because it feels like we've lost 2 in a row. We're not losing 3 in a row to this team with a rookie quarterback.
Right.
They've had cast-offs at quarterbacks the last 2 years. They've got a rookie this year. We have to win this game.
His second game ever, his first primetime game, his first home game. It has all the makings for all the ingredients for us to go in there and do well. And I'll say this as a general kind of takeaway on this game or take. The Saints have caught a lot of shit for having a quote-unquote old roster, right? Well, on the flip side of that, this is a game where that helps you, right? We're not worried about the big lights of Monday Night Football.
Right.
We're not worried about trying to make a guy who maybe we played in, like the young guys that played against Bryce Young in college. Like, we're not trying to go get one back on him for some shit he did against us in college at Bama. Our guys are professionals. They're older. They've been around the block. They've played Monday Night Football games.
Yeah.
They are going on a business trip, and that's the mindset they need to have. It's just, don't get cute. We traded Gardner Johnson. We don't need that shit in our room anymore. Keep contained on the quarterback and
just don't make mistakes.
Just don't make mistakes.
Do your job, right. I mean, don't try to do too much. It's like
just do your job. You said it. It's just do what you did this past week. We should be fine.
Yeah.
Pretty cut and dry. Why don't we move on to predictions?
All right.
I think we'll save yours for last. I feel something spicy coming.
Now, yeah, I mean, I know I'd let you down on my Marcus Mays hot
I'm
take.
upset about that. I
said he was going to be third in team in tackles. And I don't know if you checked the tackle totals from the Titans
that
game,
just
but he
doesn't move the needle
was
for
third.
me.
He had 5 tackles and got stiff-armed into space as well.
Yeah.
He's still in orbit. He is still in orbit. I hope he comes back for this next week so he can keep being third in tackles.
Yeah. Interesting hot prediction for you, but
I think maybe I overthought it.
But
But anyway,
I think you did too. But that's neither here
so
nor there.
yeah, that's all to say that there will surely be spicier takes along the way.
Well, actually, lead us off. What do you got? Do you have anything spicy this week, or are you keeping it pretty mild?
well, what do you want to do in terms of predictions? You just want to do
Just
straight
tell
score?
us what you think is going to happen. Give us a final score, and just say, hey, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to lose, and this is going to be the score.
Yeah,
If you think someone's going to have a big game and you're calling their shot for them, go ahead and call it.
It's hard to get too spicy about
If this
game.
feels like a Marcus May 3 interception game, let us know.
That's not his strength, though.
We know.
He just happened to be there. But no, I
was
see
late
Saints.
getting there.
I see Saints win in this one. It's tough because it's the Panthers. Part of me wants to say it's going to be a close game, but there's just so many objective reasons for why it shouldn't be. I still think, well, we're going to have some big plays. We're also going to have we're still going to have those missed opportunities, a couple big plays that could have been. I like us getting to the 28 mark in points. I don't know that it's going to be one of your Sean Payton style blowout games like we used to have sometimes against inferior opponents. But at the same time, I don't really see them getting more than 17. I think they're gonna improve. Put it this way: I don't think they're gonna just because the Panthers aren't gonna come out just lay down. So I'm gonna call it 28-17 Saints. Big games. I look to
Who's the MVP of the game? One person doesn't need to be, not for offense and defense. Just give us one person who has the best game.
I think your MVP of the game is going to be Pete Warner.
Okay.
Because
That'll make Nick very happy.
He's going to be the one that catches Bryce Young out of the pocket the most. He's also going to be the one who maybe jumps some routes from Hayden Hurst, and he's also the one that can dial up a surprise blitz. And if there's anybody that can actually catch Bryce when he rolls out, it's him behind the line of scrimmage. So big game for Pete Warner. Second in tackles this past week, but overall kind of quiet. But watch him have some splash plays this coming week.
Nick,
He was
what you
good in
thinking?
coverage last week, too.
Yeah.
Corey almost stole my score. My score was going to be 27-17. I think the first half probably looking at a little bit of a slow start again.
Yeah.
I think we get up comfortably, maybe 13, and maybe they score late to close it a little bit to get it, if we're up 17 or maybe we win by a touchdown, 10 points. But I think comfortable in the end. Second half, we kind of run away with it. I'm going to bet we get 3 turnovers again. MVP of the game, DeMario, because I think the run game is the most essential thing we stop. I think they're going to try and
Plow Sanders.
Yep. I think that's what it's going to do. They're going to be super conservative, try and keep the game close as long as they can. So how well he performs, that's partially defensive line, partially him, But I say DeMario, double-digit tackles, maybe a couple for a loss, MVP.
Okay. 2 defensive MVPs so far.
Yeah, I think, like Nick said, I think we start off slow again. We still haven't shaken out all the cobwebs. My final score prediction, I'm going to say 24-12. I think the defense holds them to 4 field goals, 1 less than this week. I think our offense does continue to struggle just a little bit. I do think we'll be able to run the ball better, but I don't think we're going to be clicking on all cylinders yet. That's going to take a few more weeks. My pick for MVP, I'm going Alontae Taylor. I smell an interception and like a forced fumble or a fumble recovery from him.
Okay.
He came real close last year a few times. He should have had 3 or 4 interceptions, and for whatever reason they were called back or he just dropped the ball. I feel like he's going to have a big game this week. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him matched up on Hurst a few times, and then he's gonna have a big game, I think. But I'm gonna go ahead and say 24-12, Saints win.
Okay, so 3 defensive MVPs, all picking the win. Real quick, Last thing, who's the best offensive player in the game for us?
I'm going to say this week, man, I'm going to Olave. Screw it. He's going to have a touchdown this week.
Holding up
I
the
feel
deuce.
like he's going to have 100 yards again. You know, he's gonna hit.
I think that was Olave driving by outside the office. Just
It was Shaheed running by us.
or maybe that was Marcus May still in orbit.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Olave has 8 catches for about 135. He catches a long one and he gets a touchdown.
He would have been close to like 170 if he caught the one that.
Yeah, exactly.
That he dropped.
I think he gets about 135 and a touchdown this week.
Okay,
and he's your best offensive player.
Okay.
I can see. I don't know why I feel Carr's not going to be there yet. Like I feel maybe another interception or something's going to happen, but I think Olave's your guy this week.
Carr's going to have his moments of trying to do a little too much, like he admitted, which is great for the accountability.
I'm going to go Mike Thomas, mainly because I think they'll probably put Dante Jackson on him. JC's probably going to follow Olave, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, you would think.
But that also opens an opportunity for Shaheed because I don't know what they have behind those two. So I just see MT us going short pass game primarily against what I think so heavily inferior corner.
Well, there is a Von Bell back there, so
and
hopefully
he'll run
we'll be
right through him,
holding deuces as they pass him by.
So I'm gonna go Mike Thomas. I'm gonna go 9 for like 95 with a touchdown.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is it's the Juwan Johnson game on offense.
I could see it.
There are a couple plays where I think Carr is going to look at film, do his thing. He's a smart quarterback. A couple plays where if he throws it on the second step, Juwan was there in the seam. He might not be used to his tight ends getting up the seam that quick. To be honest, and I think we can catch him off guard a little bit.
And if it's Von Bell, he will eat.
Yes, he will.
Juwan Johnson will eat.
Correct.
Yes. Von Bell will be hungry. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for our Panthers preview.
Yeah,
episode.
We'll see you guys next week for the review of the Panthers game.
Yeah, here's to a win. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the 28-3 podcast.
What a